Now, have you got over $1,000 to spunk out on your next blower? And do your nipples happen to get harder than Jason Statham's fists when you think about lovely AI? If you just said yes twice, then boy do I have the video for you. And even if you didn't, please keep on watching anyway, because your Uncle Spurt really needs that ad revenue. Whiskey cash is running dry. Now, I've been using Google's Pixel 10 Pro XL as my full-time smartphone this past week and pitting it against Samsung's Galaxy S25 Ultra to see which is the best mega-priced, mega-sized flagship phone for you. So here's what I reckon, and for more on the latest and greatest tech, please do subscribe, ding that notifications bell. Cheers! So let's begin with the design, and of course both Google's Pixel 10 Pro XL and Samsung's Galaxy S25 Ultra are absolute units. We're talking 6.8 inches versus 6.9. So they're basically bigger than King Kong's moaning bowel movement and about as enjoyable to grapple with one-handed. And they're both quite heavy sods as well. The S25 Ultra feels slightly lighter, but there's honestly not much in it. As you can see, Google has gone with a slightly more curvy design compared with Samsung's rectangular brick. Although both feature iPhone-y style flat edging, which I'm not a massive fan of. I do prefer slightly curved edges. Does improve the old hand feel. You've got Gorilla Glass on the pair of them, but it's Victus 2 front and back for the Pixel 10 Pro XL, while Samsung opted for a bit of Armor 2, and this isn't just more scratch resistant compared with Victus 2, it's also a lot less reflective, which is really helpful if you're trying to use that display outdoors. The difference is blatantly obvious when you do test them side by side, as you can see there. S25 Ultra kicking those reflections right in the tits. And the good news is that the Pixel 10 Pro XL's display is still bright enough to counter the worst of the glare when you are outdoors on a sunshiny day. But if you do live somewhere where it's generally hot and dry and sunny, you're probably going to be more tempted by that S25 Ultra. And while Google has used a shiny aluminium frame for the Pixel 10 Pro XL, which does get rather smudgy and grubby, Samsung has instead gone for a matte titanium finish, which I definitely prefer. It doesn't get all oily and nasty. But thankfully both blowers do sport a matte back end, which again, highly resistant to fingerprinty grease. And of course you've got a selection of colours as well. I do prefer the camera bump here on the Pixel 10 Pro XL, as it does double up as a handy finger shelf when you are having to use this absolutely mammoth sized git one-handed. You can't really do the same with the weird little pokey camera jobbies here on the S25 Ultra. Oh, and the Pixel 10 Pro XL, just like the Galaxy S25 Ultra, fully IP68 water and dust resistant, so it can be fully submerged in the drink, no worries. Highly resistant to sand and grit and general bits of cack. Now, I've had absolutely no bother unlocking the Pixel 10 Pro XL. Just like the Galaxy S25 Ultra, you've got an in-display ultrasonic fingerprint sensor, which takes an accurate 3D model of your thumbprint. So even if your hands are a bit mucky or a bit damp, it tends to work pretty well. And as ever, this is backed by a reliable bit of face unlock on both of these smartphones. Not quite as quick as the fingerprint recognition, but usually works well even in dodgy lighting. And then it's a very different tale when it comes to the software as well. As you can see, the Pixel 10 Pro XL upgraded to the latest Android 16 out of the box, whereas the S25 Ultra still stuck on Android 15. Hopefully we won't be waiting too long for Android 16 on the S25 Ultra, although Samsung has had a few issues, shall we say, with rollouts in recent times. Although the Z Fold 7 and the Z Flip 7 did come with Android 16 out of the box, so it must be almost ready. And the good news is both Google and Samsung generously offering 7 full years of OS updates and security patching. Good bit of pixel drop action in the case of the 10 Pro XL. And Google is also offering a full year of its AI Pro plan free of charge with the Pixel 10 Pro XL, which grants you full Gemini support in the likes of Docs and Gmail, you got video generation, etc. But if you want to keep your subscription after the 12 months are up, you will of course have to slide a bit of extra cash into the G-Man's G-string, and it is almost 20 quid a month. But thankfully, even without that AI Pro plan, you can still have full-on chats with Gemini. You can use Circle to search, all of the best AI features stuffed on here. So most people should be happy just not bothering. Now, one of the best looking Pixel 10 exclusive AI features is the Magic Q. Now, Google demonstrated this on stage at the Pixel 10 series launch with Jimmy Fallon, as you do, just showing him chatting with various buddies on his Pixel. and the phone popping up relevant information, links, phone numbers, etc. when needed. And sadly, I'm on pre-release software here on the Pixel 10 Pro XL, so I don't have the Magic Q feature available to me. It will pop up right here in the settings when it is available, but I will be fully testing that for my review. But of course, all the usual pixely bangers are present and correct. Got a bit of Gemini, circle to search. You've got screenshots on here, incredibly handy if you take anywhere near as many screenshots as I do of various train tickets, travel passes, just random stuff on websites, etc. You can sort it all out for you, and then you can easily search and find what you need. You've got the Pixel Journal as well, where you can document your thoughts, creative ideas, feelings, etc. Though frankly, my thought journals usually end up looking like a Jack Torrance nightmare. Now here on the Galaxy S25 Ultra, you don't get Magic Q, you don't get screenshots, etc. But you get all the standard Google AI shenanigans, including of course good old Gemini. Got a bit of circle to search, naturally. And plenty of other very similar features to what you get on the Pixel 10 Pro XL, including real-time translation and transcription. And a bit of photo editing action as well, of course, which I'll bang on about later. But there's bugger all exclusive AI features here on the Galaxy S25 Ultra that I can't get on the Pixel, or that I actually miss when I use the Pixel as my full-time smartphone rather than the Samsung. However, one tool which is exclusive to the Galaxy S25 Ultra that you don't get with that Pixel 10 Pro XL is of course the old S Pen. Definitely S Pen. A couple of takes I've said Pen S. That's absolutely wrong. It's not a Pen S. And this allows you to of course scribble and sketch to your heart's delight on the Galaxy S25 Ultra's screen. It's pretty bloody handy for just scribbling notes on documents, signing your name, etc. Although Samsung did do away with the Bluetooth functionality for this generation, so it's not quite as useful as it used to be. But of course the Pixel doesn't come with any form of stylus bunged in a bottom orifice, so it's just a good old-fashioned bit of fingering all the way. And also, it's only in the UK that the Pixel 10 Pro XL actually boasts a physical SIM slot. That's been done away with in the US. So it is actually eSIM only, whereas in the States the S25 Ultra supports physical SIM as well as the eSIM. But many of the other specs are identical. You've got Wi-Fi 7 support on both the Pixel 10 Pro XL and the Galaxy S25 Ultra, so well and truly future-proofed. You've also got millimeter wave as well as sub-6 5G support, and you've got a good bit of that ultra-wideband action. As for the storage, they both start at 256 gigs, which will fill up relatively fast if you shoot a lot of 4K video, download the likes of bloody Genshin Impact and Wuthering Waves. Neither expandable via micro SD. You will have to turn to cloud storage or actually start deleting stuff if you're running out, but you can also pay even more money to Google or Samsung to expand that storage up to a whopping terabyte in total. Now, as far as the display tech goes, not really much at all between these two mighty panels. You've got a 6.8-inch LTPO OLED on the Pixel 10 Pro XL versus a 6.9-inch LTPO AMOLED here on the Galaxy S25 Ultra. Now, both boast gorgeous contrast, punchy colors. You've got similar resolution as well, 2992 by 1344 pixels on the Pixel, compared with 3120 by 1440 pixels on the S25 Ultra. So if you remember to jump into the display settings, go to the screen resolution setting and max that out, you'll enjoy some super fine detail when you're editing pics, watching movies, whatever you're up to. You've got slightly more control over the color output here on the S25 Ultra, but you've also got adaptive color options on both. And for the Pixel 10 series, Google has finally introduced a sensitive eyes feature which you can access in the settings. You toggle that on, that will double the PWM dimming to 480 Hz, so it's a match for the Galaxy S25 Ultra. That is good news if you are more sensitive to OLED flicker, but still not as good as what some rivals offer. And you've got a stereo speaker set up on both of these blowers, which packs a pretty decent punch. A wee bit louder on the S25 Ultra, but the Pixel makes up for it with a bit of beefier bass. And then we come to the slightly troublesome subject of performance. Slightly troublesome if you happen to be a Pixel 10 Pro XL, because this is powered by Google's latest Tensor G5. Got a change of manufacturer now, no longer Samsung, but similar issues seeping through. It's fine for your everyday shenanigans, but the Pixel does heat up under pressure, especially when gaming. As usual, of course, I installed a good bit of Wuthering Waves, one of the best tests when it comes to mobile gaming because it's basically unoptimized. It runs like an absolute dog on any smartphone that isn't super powered. But as you can see here on the Pixel 10 Pro XL, I've had bugger all luck with that because it just crashes every time I try and load it. I've downloaded the entire ruddy game no less than 3 times now, but every time I've installed it and tried to boot it up, the exact same situation. And so I got a good bit of Genshin Impact, that old classic, on the go instead, all 36 bloody gigabytes of it. And Genshin Impact ran absolutely fine on the sort of regular medium-y graphics settings, but as soon as I boosted them up to the maximum levels, that's when things got a little bit heated, to say the least. I did notice some significant frame rate drops, usually when the action got a bit full on, but also just sometimes when I was just running about the place, just trying to remember what you're actually supposed to do in this sodding game. So certainly if you are a bit more of a hardcore gamer, you'll want to look to the Galaxy S25 Ultra instead, which is powered by Qualcomm's Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy. This absolute hero of a chipset can handle anything you chuck at it, even good old Wuthering Waves, even when you max out those graphics. And neither of these phones has much of a gaming mode really, it's pretty basic stuff, slightly better on the Samsung, but yeah, definitely if you are a gamer, I would 100% go S25 Ultra rather than the Pixel. The Pixel can handle, you know, like Call of Duty, PubG, stuff like that, absolutely fine. So now let's have a merry wee stroll onto the subject of battery life, and certainly from a specs perspective, the Pixel 10 Pro XL is the victor here, though only by a badger's ball hair, with its 5200 mAh capacity cell versus the 5000 mAh battery on the S25 Ultra. And so far in my time with the Pixel 10 Pro XL, I have noticed the battery life is certainly better than the Galaxy S25 Ultras, not just because of the slight increase in capacity, but also general energy efficiencies and savings that Google has made in the software as well as the hardware. So with my general everyday mixed use, bit of camera play, web browsing, messaging, video streaming, and plenty of Spotify streaming in the background as well, typically get around 8 hours of screen on time from a full charge of the Pixel versus more like sort of 7-ish with the Galaxy S25 Ultra. But hey, either of these mighty blows will happily last you a full day unless you're just basically never off your phone and constantly playing a bit of Genshin or Wuthering Waves. Not so much Wuthering with the Pixel, obviously. And I conducted the usual obligatory video drain test to keep all of the benchmark bros happy. And as usual, almost identical results here. Got approximately 20 hours of non-stop video playback action with the Pixel 10 Pro XL. It was actually marginally better on the Galaxy S25 Ultra, closer to 21 hours. Of course, the battery charging speeds for both of these blowers could accurately be described as slow as balls. You got 45 watt wired charging, so it takes just over an hour to fully charge the Pixel, a little bit less for the S25 Ultra because there's a slightly smaller capacity. And for the wireless charging, you've got Qi 2 support on both the S25 Ultra and the Pixel 10 Pro XL, although I believe it's Qi 2.2 on the Pixel, so it charges it up to 25 watts, whereas it's 15 watt cap for the S25 Ultra. But they both support spangly magnetic charging stands and all that kind of shenanigans. Sadly, I haven't had a chance to properly test the Pixel Snap shenanigans for the 10 Pro XL, but hopefully for my full review. Alright kiddies, well we've had an awful lot of fun today, but let's round off this Galaxy S25 Ultra versus Pixel 10 Pro XL comparison with a squint at the old camera tech. First up, I've got to say I quite like both Google and Samsung's camera apps, which are quite one-handed friendly these days. That said, if you want to play around with Google's new camera coach tool, you do have to stretch all the way up to the top of the screen for that one. I'm honestly not sure quite how many people will bother to use this, but if you're a complete amateur when it comes to photography, you want to try and up your game a bit, it could be useful. It basically just offers up a whole bunch of advice on getting the best possible picture of your subject, using a good bit of AI smart arsery, naturally. So you just follow the steps, take the photo, job done. And the Pixel certainly feels more tailored towards the point and shoot crowd, but you do have a decent selection of pro controls as well. Same as on the Galaxy S25 Ultra, you can mess around with the shutter speed, the white balance, etc. Although on the Galaxy S25 Ultra, you can mess around with various filters, completely customize them and create your own. For its primary shooter, the Pixel uses a 50 meg 1/1.3 inch sensor versus a 200 meg effort here on the S25 Ultra, but it's the same size of sensor, 1/1.3. And I found that the Galaxy S25 Ultra, as usual, tends to slightly brighten images in general, so they look a bit more iPhone-y, while the Pixel 10 Pro XL keeps things real. Dog. The Pixel is absolutely superb in high contrast situations, capturing impressive levels of detail and balancing with natural tones, while the S25 Ultra isn't far behind, just suffering occasional lapses into oversaturation, or in a couple of cases, doing the opposite. Now, both phones are generally successful when it comes to ambient snaps. You can expect quite accurate colours and bugger all noise, but the Pixel is the victor for proper low-light photography, producing more natural colours and certainly less grain. And both the Pixel and the Galaxy pretty good at snapping living subjects as long as they aren't moving around too much. If you portrait snaps, you get more natural tones with the Pixel, although both can produce a really lovely smooth bokeh style background. And the Pixel sports a 48 megapixel telephoto shooter with a 1/2.55 inch sensor and 5x optical zoom, whereas Samsung actually uses a dual telephoto setup. You've got a 50 meg sensor with 3x optical zoom and a 10 meg sensor with 5x optical zoom. And both max out at 100 times zoom using blatant AI shindiggery to sharpen up the image. Google Zoom pics are usually sharper than Samsung's when you fly past the 50 times level, but it only really works well for objects like this lighthouse or this boat, for instance. If you try and zoom in on humans, they'll usually end up looking like a Madame Tussauds waxwork that's been left out in the sun. And when it comes to zooming around the 3 to 4 times mark, there's really not much in it. I expected the S25 Ultra to produce sharper shots thanks to its 3x optical zoom, but the Pixel does a really good job still. And Google has used the exact same 48 megapixel sensor for the ultra-wide shooter as that telephoto lens, and that's going up against a 50 megapixel wide-angle lens here on the Samsung. And both the Google and Samsung perfectly functional if you want to capture a proper bit of full-on scenery or whatever. Get respectable detail levels, the tones are fairly consistent with the main sensor again. And of course you've got proper clever clogs, AI-led photo editing smarts on both the Pixel 10 Pro XL and Samsung's Galaxy S25 Ultra, which can auto-frame your photo after you've shot it, remove any pesky background stragglers, etc. And for video shenanigans, you can actually capture up to 8K footage on both the Pixel and the Galaxy, but it's native here on the S25 Ultra, whereas Google needs to upload your 4K footage to upscale it to 8K here on the Pixel. And you can shoot 10-bit HDR video with both of these almighty smartphones as long as you leave it on the old 4K resolution. They both do a perfectly fine job for your home movies. Although if you want to shoot a video in the dark for whatever reason, well, definitely the Pixel is the superior with that video boost feature, which really helps to clean up the image, reduce the noise and just make things a lot brighter and nicer. And then last up, you've got yourself a 42 meg selfie shooter here on the Pixel 10 Pro XL versus a more basic 12 meg selfie shooter on the S25 Ultra. But both these phones can record up to 4K resolution footage once again using the selfie snappers with 10-bit HDR support. And there you have it, my lovelies. That in a tasty wee nutshell is how the Pixel 10 Pro XL stacks up against Samsung's Galaxy S25 Ultra. Quite a few differences between them. As you can see, the Pixel slightly superior when it comes to the battery life. I also prefer that stock Android vibe, and I find the AI features here on the googly smartphone more useful in general compared with the Galaxy S25 Ultra. But the S25 Ultra, of course, has the S Pen, not the penis, definitely not the penis, which some people will adore, and of course the gaming smarts as well, much superior here on the S25 Ultra if you want to play the likes of Wuthering Waves, Genshin Impact, etc. So the big question is, which one would you prefer, or can they both get stuffed? Well, definitely let us know down in the comments below. Stay tuned for my full Google Pixel 10 Pro XL review, which hopefully won't be too long now. I'm just waiting for it to be final retail software. Please do subscribe, ding that notifications bell for more on the latest and greatest tech, and have yourselves a ruddy wonderful rest of the week. Cheers everybody, love you!